All right. I want to talk about something that I haven't solved. I'm not coming to you with any answers today. This isn't something that I've worked out and I'm sharing that advice. This is something I'm still in the middle of. And it's this, the ability to properly switch off and just be wherever I am. I don't think I've ever been able to do this for any significant length of time. How are you with that? So this is something that I don't have the answers to. I just want to talk through it honestly, and perhaps it'll resonate with some of you out there. Now, this isn't new for me. I think that this is something that I've been doing all my life. And actually, when I think about it, it goes back to competition days particularly. In my previous career, we would finish a season or a year of racing. It would be the World Championships and we'd have 2 weeks off after that major competition. 2 weeks to rest, recover, enjoy time with friends, family, and prepare yourself for the new year, for the new season, for starting work again. And that is the point. For the first few days of that 2-week break, I would enjoy it. I would let my hair down, I would rest, I would recover, I would start to recover. I would be present with my family, and then at a point, I would start thinking about what's to come. It might be a week in if I was lucky, or it may only be a few days into that 2-week break. And I remember those feelings. I'd start thinking about that daunting prospect of a whole 6+ months of winter training, which is what we'd call it. It's long mileage, time in the boat, time in the weights room, time on the rowing machine, where the weather was getting worse and worse. And we'd go on training camps, which were always great, but then it was time away from my family. And I'd have this pull there and then in the moment. I am desperately trying to make the most of this precious time I have with my family here while I am here. And yet I'm thinking about what's to come. I'm thinking about being away from them. How ridiculous is this? I'd start to worry about selection. Again, I'd start to think that I had to hit the ground running. I'd have to start training before I even got back to training so that when I got back, people weren't ahead of me or I hadn't lost so much. I'd start thinking about the blisters that I was about to get. I'd start thinking about not being able to walk up the stairs again because of the weights that I hadn't done for a few months leading up to competition, and it was suddenly going to be heavy weights again. I was going to feel uncomfortable. You know, all of these little things started to play on my mind and bring me away from the present. And I think we hear a lot these days about being present, being in the moment, and how important that is. I think it is important, but I also think for some of us, it is a real challenge. And so it's got me thinking. And it got me wanting to share some of these thoughts with you, because perhaps you have this same feeling, these same thoughts, when you get an opportunity to have a bit of a break, step away from work, go on holiday, try and be present with the people you love or the people you're closest to, and you have this pull, this difficulty, just like I've described there. This came to me recently. I've just got back from a break with my family. We went to France, to this place where we hired a little house with a pool, and the idea was drink wine, eat cheese, eat snails, and enjoy the countryside, and particularly spend time in the pool with my kids. That was our holiday, and that is what we did. And I switched off for a few days. I did relax, and then I started to think about what I should be doing, what I want to be doing, how am I going to build my business up, what should I be doing to make the next stage, take the next step, what am I missing out on, what, and all these thoughts. They're not the same as they used to be, but the familiar feelings started to come back. Should I be in the pool now? Should I be doing emails, or should I be saying, and it's, the classic thing. And then my brain would go to no. I started to chastise myself. I started to get frustrated with myself for having those thoughts, or for considering spending time away from my family, doing some work at the computer while I was there. I'm sure many people struggle with this or have these same thoughts, these same feelings. in the end, you know, the reason that, on a personal note, that I've set up the businesses that I've set up and I'm doing now, and the work that I do now, it is so that I can walk away for a bit or spend time with my kids and manipulate the day, work later or work earlier, or be more flexible with what I do. That is how and why I've constructed the life that we live. And I've learned that from my time as an athlete, when it was very restricting. You know, 2 weeks off a year, that was it. And then it was 7 days a week, 350 days a year. So I was aware of it then, and I am aware of it now. But there's still a pull and there's still a difficulty. And it's still something I want to develop, be aware of, learn from, and improve. And we're all going to be different in our lives and what we do, but perhaps there are some things relevant to you that I'm talking about here. So after all that, here's where my thinking has got me to. I don't think the goal should be to switch off entirely. I think perhaps it's something just underneath that. It's rearranging what work actually means. If work is something separate to life entirely, or the life you want to live entirely, then it becomes this box you have to step into and away from, and creates that divide. And that's always going to be a battle, because you're always going to be fighting it or bridging the gap. How do you live in one camp and the other at the same time? But if work becomes integrated into everything that you want to do, friends, family, social life, time away, time at home, then the question doesn't become, how do I step away from it? The question becomes, why does this feel like something that I have to switch off from anyway? I don't have this fully worked out, but it feels like that question is the right question for me. Again, this isn't going to be right for everyone, but I think reframing the question, reframing the way I think about the need to switch off, to separate, is an important distinction. And I think this could really help me with my approach to having time off. So where's this discussion left me after all that? So I want to think about work, but it's about integrating it into life in a way that I don't need to separate away from. I don't need to step into that box to give myself a break. And actually, I think some of this comes down to pacing. How do we pace our life? How do we create manageable, consistent work so that we have that balance and we don't need a complete rest from it? And how do we integrate what we do with the people, the places, and the things we love doing? It's a challenge. It's not going to be possible for everyone. It's going to be very difficult. It'll involve a lot of other introspection and figuring out. But I think shifting the question, reframing that question, is an important point. And I think I've discovered that through sharing this with you. So thank you for listening. Now, as you can tell, I don't really have a formal way to end this video. I don't have a plan. I didn't really come into it with a plan, as you can tell, but I hope that there are some things that you can relate to in the things that I've talked about, whether it is just the idea of reframing situations, or it is that division between life and work and how we integrate it. If any of this is familiar to you, then I'd genuinely love to hear from you. And I think this is the kind of discussion that is more useful when it is ongoing. So if you do have an idea, if you do have advice, if you do have comments, leave them below and we can continue to discuss. All right, see you in another video soon. Bye.